Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. 4 months ago, I was just another guy living in suburban Connecticut, working from home as a systems analyst for a mid-sized insurance company. The kind of person who waters their lawn on weekends and waves at neighbors without really knowing them. I lived in one of those cookie-cutter developments where every third house has the same floor plan, just mirrored. My wife, Jennifer, and I had moved there 2 years earlier when she got pregnant with our daughter Lily. It was supposed to be the perfect place to raise a family. Quiet streets, good schools, low crime rates. The most exciting thing that ever happened was when someone's recycling bin blew into the street during a storm. That all changed the day. I decided to befriend Walter Brennan, the strange old man who lived in the Colonial at the end of our cul-de-sac. Walter had lived there since before the development expanded. His house was one of the original properties from the 1960s. While the rest of us had neat Kentucky bluegrass and decorative mailboxes, his place looked forgotten by time. The paint was this faded yellow that might have been cheerful once, and his garage door had rust stains that looked like dried tears running down the panels. He kept odd hours. I'd see lights flickering in his basement at 3 a.m. when I got up to check on Lily, and delivery trucks would pull up to his house at the strangest times. Medical supply companies, electronic retailers, even a refrigerated truck from some laboratory equipment supplier. The other neighbors whispered about him being a hoarder or maybe running some kind of illegal business. But nobody ever actually talked to him. The day everything started, I was dealing with a network issue that had me pulling my hair out. Internet kept dropping every few minutes, making it impossible to work. After 3 hours on the phone with our provider, they told me the problem might be interference from another network in the area. Their technician mentioned something about unusually strong signals coming from nearby, possibly ham radio or someone running serious server equipment. That's when I remembered all those electronic deliveries at Walter's place. I figured maybe the old guy had some amateur radio setup that was messing with our connection. So I did what I'd been avoiding for 2 years. I walked over to introduce myself and asked if he could help me figure out the interference issue. It was around 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when Walter answered the door wearing a pristine lab coat over regular clothes. He had these pale grey eyes that seemed to look through me rather than at me, and his fingers were stained with what looked like iodine. The smell that wafted out from his house was this weird mix of antiseptic and something metallic and slightly sweet, like copper pennies soaked in syrup. When I explained about the internet issues, his whole demeanor shifted. He got this intense look of interest, almost excitement, and invited me in immediately. Said he'd been having similar problems and maybe we could troubleshoot together. The eagerness in his voice should have been my first warning, but I was desperate to get back online for work. As I stepped into his foyer, I noticed medical textbooks stacked on every surface. Some so old their spines were crumbling, others brand new with topics I couldn't even pronounce. He led me through a narrow hallway lined with framed medical degrees and certifications from institutes in Eastern Europe, credentials in languages I couldn't identify. The living room had been converted into some kind of workspace with multiple computer monitors, arranged in a semicircle and cables snaking across the floor like black veins. But it was the basement door that caught my attention. It had 3 different locks on it, including what looked like a biometric scanner, and there was this faint humming sound coming from below, rhythmic and mechanical. Walter quickly steered me toward his computer setup, explaining he'd built his own server farm for research purposes. He pulled up network diagnostic tools I recognized from my work, and sure enough, there were multiple encrypted networks broadcasting from his location. The signal strength was insane, way beyond what any home setup should produce. As he typed, I noticed his screens kept flashing with notifications from what looked like encrypted chat channels. The usernames were all medical terms, mixed with numbers: scalpel 447, Neurocode 23, blood worklife. Walter quickly minimized these windows, but not before I caught glimpses of thumbnail images that made my stomach turn. They looked like surgical procedures, but something about them was wrong. The angles were too cinematic, the lighting too deliberate, like someone had turned an operating room into a film set. Walter must have sensed my discomfort because he suddenly became very chatty, asking about my work, my family, how long I'd lived in the neighborhood. His questions felt like he was cataloging information about me. Then he said something that made every hair on my neck stand up. You know, with your technical background and my medical expertise, we could do incredible things together. I've been looking for someone with your exact skill set. Before I could respond, he stood up and walked to a cabinet filled with old medical instruments. He pulled out what looked like a vintage bone saw, running his finger along the blade while he talked. Modern medicine has become so restricted, so bound by ethics committees and regulations. But there's a whole community of people who understand that real progress requires flexibility. He set the saw down and turned back to his computers, pulling up what appeared to be a private browser. Let me show you something fascinating. Consider it a professional courtesy between neighbors. His fingers flew across the keyboard, entering passwords and navigating through layers of encryption I recognized as Tor routing. The screen finally loaded to show a sleek black interface with a logo that looked like a scalpel crossed with a Wi-Fi symbol. Below it read, Medstream Dark, where science meets spectacle. The page was full of thumbnail previews, each showing what appeared to be surgical procedures in progress. But these weren't educational videos from medical schools. The production quality was too high, the camera angles too artistic. Some had view accounts in the thousands with price tags attached. $500 for basic procedures, up to $10,000 for something labeled Premium Experimental Series. Walter clicked on one of the previews, and I caught a glimpse of a masked figure in surgical scrubs standing over an unconscious patient, addressing the camera like a game show host. The chat sidebar was exploding with messages, people bidding amounts, making requests. I felt sick. Walter watched my face carefully as he explained. It started as educational content for medical students in countries with limited resources. But the audience evolved. Now we have collectors, enthusiasts, people who appreciate the artistry of the human form. The subjects are volunteers, of course, well-compensated volunteers. He paused, letting that sink in. Your network expertise could help us expand. Better encryption, smoother streaming, maybe even interactive features. Think of the possibilities. I stood up so fast, the chair knocked backward. My mouth was dry and I could hear my pulse thundering. In my ears, I need to go. My wife, she's expecting me to pick up Lily from daycare. It was a lie. Jennifer handled pickup on Tuesdays. But I needed out of that house immediately. Walter's expression didn't change, but something shifted in those gray eyes. He moved between me and the hallway, not quite blocking my path, but making his presence known. I understand this is a lot to process, but please understand, discretion is vital here. We're dealing with powerful people, wealthy clients who value their privacy above all else. They wouldn't appreciate knowing an outsider has seen their playground. His voice was calm, conversational even, but the threat was clear. He reached into his lab coat pocket and I tensed, but he only pulled out a business card, not a normal business card. It was black metal with just a QR code etched into it. Think about my offer. The compensation is substantial. 6 figures just to start, plus bonuses based on viewer engagement. But more importantly, think about your family. Jennifer works at that dental office on Maple Street, doesn't she? And little Lily goes to Sunshine Academy. The way he said their names so casually, like we were old friends, made my skin crawl. He knew exactly where my wife worked, where my daughter spent her days. As he walked me to the door, he kept talking about the technical challenges, the encryption protocols, as if we were discussing a normal IT project. At the threshold, he put a hand on my shoulder. His grip was stronger than I expected for a man in his 70s. I'll give you 48 hours to consider. After that, I'll need an answer. And remember, we're neighbors. We see each other every day. Our families are so close, practically intertwined in this little community. He smiled then, showing teeth that were too white, too perfect. Oh, and don't worry about your internet issues. I'll adjust my signal strength. Consider it a gesture of good faith. The door closed behind me with a soft click, but I heard all 3 locks engage immediately after. I stumbled back to my house, my legs feeling like rubber. Jennifer was in the kitchen when I walked in, and she immediately knew something was wrong. I told her everything, the dark web operation, the illegal surgeries, the threat to our family. She wanted to call the police right away, but I stopped her. What evidence did we have? Walter had been careful to show me everything on his computers. Nothing I could prove. And those powerful clients he mentioned, what if some of them were local law enforcement? We spent that night huddled together, checking and rechecking our locks, peeking through blinds at Walter's house. The basement lights were on, and I could see shadows moving behind the small windows. Around midnight, 3 cars pulled up to his house, expensive cars, a Tesla, a Mercedes, and something European I couldn't identify. People got out wearing medical masks and sunglasses despite the darkness, carrying metal briefcases. They stayed for 4 hours. The next morning, I made my decision. I couldn't risk my family's safety, but I also couldn't let this continue. I drove to the FBI field office in New Haven and told them everything. The agent who interviewed me seemed skeptical at first, but when I mentioned the site name and described the setup, her demeanor changed completely. Turns out they'd been tracking Medstream Dark for 2 years, but could never pinpoint the source. Within 6 hours, they had a warrant. The raid happened that night. FBI, D, even Homeland Security. They found Walter's basement had been converted into a fully functional operating theater with broadcast equipment that rivaled professional studios. Walter was arrested along with 2 assistants who lived in the neighboring town. They found financial records showing millions in cryptocurrency transactions, client lists that included names from around the world. The investigation is still ongoing, but they told me Walter won't be returning to our neighborhood, or any neighborhood, for a very long time. We moved 2 months later. Couldn't stand looking at that yellow house every day. Sometimes I still check the locks obsessively, still jump when delivery trucks drive by. But my family is safe and that dark network is shut down. The FBI agent told me I did the right thing. that my technical knowledge helped them crack encryption they'd been struggling with. I try to focus on that when the nightmares come.